general maintenance on your onboard generator, first of all, refer to your owner's manual on the amount of hours or the yearly type maintenance. The first thing we're going to do before anything else is we're going to disconnect our power cord coming in here, or our positive lead. That way we don't have any way this generator is going to start up. And I'm going to bring this boot over the top of it so we make sure we don't ground it to anything else. So according to our owner's manual, the oil needs to be changed at 150 hours or once a year. The filter, same thing, 150 hours or once a year. The air cleaner is at 300 hours or again once a year. And that's going to vary depending on where I'm camping, how much I'm using this in places where I get a lot of dirt that's going to clog this air filter. The spark plug is going to be changed at every 500 hours or as necessary to inspect it. And it's a good idea once a year just to pull this out and inspect it. And then my governor linkage, which is back here, just once a year should be inspected for nice clean operation. Fuel filter is supposed to be every 500 hours. And the screen that's up in my secondary filter is going to be pulled out and cleaned once a year as well. So we're going to go through and just do a typical oil change and maintenance on this. I'm just going to use a little, there we go, needle nose pliers to break these with. Take off my dipstick here, and we're going to just put a little oil pan up here. So that's going to take a little while to drain. This unit here will hold 4 quarts of oil with the filter. So while that's draining, the next thing I'm going to look at before I take the filter off, I want to check the air cleaner up here. Pull that out. Our filter on the outside of it. Now you can periodically blow some of the dirt and stuff out of this, but I would say 300 hours or once a year, make sure you replace it. And it's a good idea to use the manufacturer's recommended products, whether it's Onan or Kohler or Generac. Their filters are going to be a little different. They have more filaments that are inside here, so you want to make sure you get the proper airflow. In an oil filter, I want to get the proper filaments going through there here. Now our unit, and you can kind of see how dusty this is here. This unit, we're going to put a 5W40 oil back in it. So with our oil filter here, just a little wrench. I got that loosened up. And again, I'm going to wait just to make sure all this stuff is drained out beforehand. So let's inspect our spark plug. We have here 1/2 inch, or excuse me, a 5/8 with our sit here. And so when I visually inspect this, what I'm looking for is any cracks in the insulation, the ceramic up in this area here. I want to make sure I look at the spark gap, the ceramic down there, if there's any chips in that, if it's tarnished really bad, if it's soaked with oil or any type of a liquid in there, then I've got something coming into that I want to make sure I figure out what's going on, and just to see if it's basically burnt out. I can check the gap. I would refer to the owner's manual, get a little spark gap just to make sure I have the right gap in between the electrode and the metal piece in here. But this one looks very good. So I'm going to just put this back in. There we go. And one of the things to notice with putting this back in, that we had a little bit of a challenge to start with, because this is actually angled a little bit. So when you first take it out, make sure you know if it's straight up like this or back, just so you know where the threads are at. We're just going to tighten this back down. Hand tighten. Just snug, not go too tight with that. And put this back in. And click it down. Okay, so our oil is drained out. We've shut our plug off here, so now we'll slide this back a little more. We've loosened our filter up. And we shouldn't have too much left. A little bit, and it'll drain. Again, make sure you use Onan, same type coming out. Now this model here, notice it has a nice little spout here. I could have put something underneath to catch it, but I do have an angle of this going back, and I'll just clean this all up. So we have our new filter we're going to install here. One of the things that I like to do beforehand, I'm just going to take a little bit of new oil, run it around the gasket. It just makes it nice and pliable in there. And we're going to come in, again, find the right spot. Hand tight, and then I typically just like to take and make sure that's good and snug on there. There we go. Okay, so we looked up in the owner's manual, and this unit's going to take 4 quarts. And you can put just a funnel like this in. I would put 3 quarts in to start with. Check the level, fluid level, make sure it's up close to it. Then we're going to start the generator, get it to run through the system, fill this back up, and then come back and recheck. So and it's a good idea while you're doing this, watch the flow down at the bottom. Sometimes the funnel will allow more fluid, more oil to get in than the crankcase can take in. So you just want to kind of slowly go through, make sure it's not coming out of that. So now that I know I'm about a half a quart away from this thing being full, I'm going to shut this back down. I'm going to put this back together. I'm going to start the generator, get it to go through the entire system, make sure it gets in the oil, and then put the remaining in and just verify it with the dipstick. It's going to be about 4 quarts. So we'll put the new air filter back in and put it all back together. So if you have access, you've got a little bit of automotive skills that you can change the oil, turn a wrench on. It's real easy to change the oil every 150 hours on this one or once a year, and it'll help extend the life of your generator.